and I asked questions, so somebody logged off already. That was pretty quick. All right, I'll get rolling. Come up here so that I'm not screaming. Move up here, come up here. Or come up here so I'm right closer so I don't have to scream. Hi, I'm Jeff. Roger, nice to meet you. Okay, so what we're doing today we're doing working with buyers. For those of you that are pretty new in the business, the purpose of today is to take you and do as much as I can and get you ready so that you're comfortable when you're sitting down with a buyer and taking them all the way from the first phone call to actually closing the transaction. So it's going to be really abbreviated, really dense, lots of stuff. Hopefully Pam has sent you out an email of the presentation already. If you have it, you can open it. Yeah, go ahead and open it. Because it's not going to work on the screen, so you're going to have it at home instead. All right, so I'm going to start off with, everybody know how to use the MLS system, the multiple listing service system. Do you know how to set up a buyer on an auto search? Please hands up if you don't. Is everybody's good with that? Good. Everybody's good with that? Okay. So I'm going to start off with this whole thing about buyers. And we're going to talk about the mentality of a buyer. What does a buyer want? So let's go, Tara, unmute yourself. What does a buyer want when they talk to you? No? Tara, can you hear me? Wave if you can hear me. I don't know if they can hear me. Diana, can you still hear me at home? You know, I think you shut them off somehow.
I don't know what I did. Now, when you were talking, it's gone.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, this on it, I'll just go. All right, here's the deal. When a buyer wants to buy a house, they want to buy a house. That's what they want. They want to go look at homes. They want to feel homes. They want to touch homes. They want to be in them. They want to see them. The biggest mistake we make as new realtors is we try and use our technology to avoid doing the job. So we set up people on these MLS searches, and every new realtor I bump into who's been in the business for about a year always has 30 or 40 buyers set up on MLS searches, and they're sending them listings all the time. So a really good trainer once told me, if they want to buy shoes, sell them shoes. So when you meet a buyer, or however you get the lead, whether it's through an open house or through lead generation or however it is, once you have a buyer, that buyer needs to be getting into houses with you. Setting them up on an MLS search is nice, but it's not what they want. So, and the analogy I use here is the shoe store thing. If you walked into a shoe store and you found a pair of shoes you liked and you asked the salesman, could I try these shoes on? And the salesman said, we don't have those in your size today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set you up on a listing search of shoes. And every time a pair of shoes comes in, an email will come to you and show you that pair of shoes. And when you find the one you like, come back in and see me, and you can buy it. And of course, what you do at that point is go next door and buy a pair of shoes because you want to buy a pair of shoes. We do the exact same thing, and we think we're doing our job. So when somebody wants to find a house, we set them up on a listing search. And on that search, you're going to get a whole bunch of emails from us. But that's not what they want. They don't want emails. They want to go look at a house. So as buyer agents, and that's what we're talking about right now, we're dealing with buyers. As buyer agents, if you have a buyer that's active, you need to be doing everything you can to get them into houses with you. That means showing them things that aren't perfect. It means stretching your inventory so you can find stuff. It just means getting out there and doing it. If something comes listed, take them to see it, right? The best thing that can happen when you go to look at a house is you buy it, but the worst thing that can happen is you develop the rapport with that person just a little bit more, you tighten up the relationship so that when we do find one, they're going to use you, right? Now, Sunday's coming up this weekend, and there's a ton of open houses. For those of you that don't do them, there's a ton out there. So every buyer's going to be out Sunday looking at open houses. And what they do is they walk into the open house, they meet Anthony, and they fill out a piece of paper, and then Anthony puts them on an MLS list search. And he may call them and say, hi, I'm going to put you on this search. He may not too. But if they go to 8 different open houses, they'll end up on 8 realtors searches. So they'll be getting the same listings from 7 or 8 different realtors after this Sunday. These are even your buyers. So if you have a buyer that you think is deadly loyal to you because you're sending them emails, they're still going to go out on Sunday and look at houses. They're still going to get signed up on MLS searches. The only way to differentiate yourself is to get them into houses, to actually get them out with you so that they're in your face. They're looking at houses. You're buying stuff. That's the way the business works. So when they want shoes, don't sell them an MLS search. When they want to buy a house, don't set them up on a search and then never take them shopping, right? The first thing you should be doing with these people, the first thing you should be doing is meeting with them. So the very first thing you want to do, I got a lead. What do I do with it? Right? We're going to meet with them one of three ways. You're going to meet them here in the office, which in my mind as a buyer is very intimidating, right? To get dressed up, have to drive here, go to the office. You know, it's still the end of COVID. It's pretty intimidating. We're going to go 4 different ways. The second way is you can go to their house, which I love doing if they'll let me, right? If somebody will let me come in their house, I know they're my client forever, right? If they've given me the permission to walk in their house, it's over. Like they're going to be my buyer forever. So if I could get to their house, that's great for that initial the initial meeting. Zoom works. Don't be afraid to have that initial meeting face-to-face via Zoom. It's fine. It's not the best thing in the world because you're not shaking hands and kissing babies and all this stuff, but it does work. So don't be afraid of that first meeting being on a Zoom conference. Or what I like to do, me personally, my first meeting is usually at a house. So when I get a lead, let's say it's an open house lead, I'll call them and say, hey, there's a great house. We should go Tuesday night and take a look. Do you have some time? Or, hey, you know what? We were in that open house. I know you really didn't like that one, but I have 2 others that I think you'll love. If you have some time Tuesday, I could show them to you. Something along those lines, because what I want to do is I want to get out with people. I want to be with them when I'm dealing with buyers. Just talking to them on the phone and saying about searches, you're wasting your energy. I've seen realtors with 1,000 people set up on searches that don't sell any houses. They're just feeding information to people, but they're not making any money. Our job is actually to get them in the house. So that first phone call, the first contact, the first touch. Hopefully you guys are all doing open houses this weekend. I'm doing one Saturday, I'm doing one Sunday. Hopefully you're doing them. If you are, you're going to get some leads there. You're going to follow up with those leads. So we're going to assume that the open house is okay because we did that training 1.5 weeks ago. Now, once you call them, the phone call is very straightforward. You need to get in there. You need to get together with them somehow. So your phone call after the open house is either going to be, hey, did you like the house? They're going to say no, or hey, what'd you think of the house? Or whatever you want to use as your script. But the goal of that call is going to be to get an appointment. Everybody understand that? So I'm calling people not to set them up on MLS searches. That's not my goal. My goal is to get an appointment, 1 of 4, in the office, in their house, on Zoom. We're looking at an actual house that's for sale. And what we're going to do today, I'm going to go through the 2 scripts. It's basically, I have one script kind of thing if you're going to meet them in the office or on Zoom, and then another script if we're going to go to the house. In your packages that Pam sent you, the script for in the house is actually written out all there for you. So you'll know that I actually script this stuff. So on the phone, what do we want to do on the phone? And this is where 80% of you are going to die. Because some realtor told you to qualify on the phone. You've got to ask qualifying questions. You need to make sure that the buyer is qualified. And this was drilled into you by somebody else, and I'm going to undrill it. You guys are going to talk yourselves out of appointments by trying to overqualify clients. Does that make sense? If I speak to you for the very first time and you start talking to me about my finances, my money, my life, my goals, my ambitions, everything, the first time you called me, I'm going to pull back. That's me personally. I'll pull back. So if I'll do it and I'm pretty social, most people will pull back at that point. The purpose of that first contact is only to get the first appointment. You will qualify them in that first appointment. Let me say that more clearly. Get the damn appointment. When you're with them, then qualify them. Because here's what's going to happen. If you do a face-to-face with somebody and they can't afford a mortgage, they're not going to buy a house if they can't get a mortgage. But they know 10 people that can buy a house. Maybe they're a renter and you're going to help them develop into a home buyer, but you're going to develop a relationship. And that's what this is about. This is about developing relationships with buyers. So on that first phone call, I do need to qualify them a little bit. I want to make sure they want to buy a house. I want to make sure they think they can buy a house. So I might ask them a question like, have you talked to somebody about your mortgage yet? If they say no, that's fine. And if they say yes, that's fine. If they say no, I'm not killing the deal. Now, I did a lot of time auditing new agents, and I used to freak out when people would say, well, you haven't been approved for a mortgage yet, call me back when you are. Or, hey, I'll have someone call you to do the mortgage. You don't have a relationship yet. You can't give them the mortgage broker till you have the relationship. You can't pass your relationship on till you have it. Get that first meeting. So your first contact. I give Anthony a lead. His job with that lead is to get a meeting. Everybody good? If you have questions, just ask. So I give Anthony a lead. His job with that lead is to get the meeting. What does he have to find out before the meeting? We want the first face-to-face meeting, whether it's Zoom, in the office, in person, or in the house, to be purposeful and productive. So we need to know a little bit. So there's some questions here that really we want to ask on that first conversation that aren't too deep, but they let me do a search. So I want to know, hey, where are you thinking about moving to? Where are you thinking about buying? So I know an area, right? I need to know budget, roughly what's your budget when you're buying this new house? They'll know, right? What type of home are you looking for? And then you can ask a few little questions. So here's what I need to know to do a good MLS search. I need to know what their budget is, what kind of home they're looking for, a little bit about their lifestyle. What do they like to do, right? And their budget. If I know that, I can do an MLS search, especially today with limited inventory. Pretty easy to do a search when there's only 20 homes to look through, right? So I want to get those questions asked in that first, when I'm booking the first appointment, so that when we get together with the buyer, we have some decent concrete things and I'm ready for it. So on that first phone call, let's say we met them at an open house on Sunday. Our phone call Sunday night should be something along the lines of, hi, I don't know, I'll use Anthony. Hey, Anthony, we met this afternoon at that open house. We had some fun. I know you didn't really like that particular house, but there's two in that neighborhood that I think you'll love. If you have some time Tuesday night, we could do some one-on-one showings, just go take a look. If you give me about half an hour, we could go look at both. Everybody gets excited by that conversation. I get excited as a realtor because I'm taking somebody shopping. They get excited because they realize they don't have to go to open houses. They can go to private showings. And I'm there to help them, and we can do it quick, and we can do it live, and we can have fun. And that's the goal of that first phone call. So if the phone was a lead, let's say you're buying leads, so a Sync Lead or one of the other lead generation companies, you bought the lead. The first conversation needs to be, hey, we need to get together and talk, right? We need to get together and talk. Now, I will tell you, when I first started in real estate, I did no in-office appointments. I did everything at the houses. Okay, so now it was a different world. I could show 50 houses to this one buyer because there was 50 to show. So it was a bit different. And the buying process was way easier, right? We could look at a house, then we could go back next week and look at it again. Then we could put in an offer with conditional inspection, and conditional appraisals, and conditional finance. It was a fun game to be in. This is really tough right now. So you got to put in offers, no conditional financing. Hopefully you've done a pre-inspection before time. Like everything has to be done in advance, but the buyers don't know that yet. So if they've never bought a house, they bought a house 5 years ago, they think 5 years ago. They don't know this market. We think everybody knows real estate is insane. We think everyone knows every house is selling multiple offers. And I got an email yesterday from a lead who said, hey, this house is listed in Orleans at $299. I want to put in an offer at $279, conditional on inspection. And you try not to laugh, but people believe that. So you have to teach them. So that in-office conversation, the in their house conversation, or the Zoom conversation has become really, really, really important with buyers. Very important. You need to coach them up front. They need to have their financing approved before you go look at houses. Because if you find one they love, they're not at that point going to have time to go to their bank. Right? They're going to have to put in an offer. So you need to have that done in advance. The other thing is home inspections. I believe everyone should get a home inspection on every house they buy. Unfortunately, in this market, you just can't. So you could do a home inspection before you put the offer in. But then you're running the risk of, having to do 10 home inspections. So if my client is super aggressive, like let's say it's a $500,000 house and they want to offer $650,000, I'd be comfortable with that person doing a home inspection in advance. But as a $500,000 house, they want to offer $525,000, they're going to lose their money on the home inspection. And I know that. Right? I know this house is going to sell for $600,000 and they're going to lose their money on the home inspection. So you have to be in charge, take charge. So let's try as much as we can to get them either in an office, on Zoom, or at home. Fair? So here's what you want. When you have that meeting, what is that meeting like? And I'll tell you that meeting needs to be 70% them talking and you asking open-ended questions. So it's not, I have lots of canned presentations. I didn't put one in here for you because I think you need to do this, kind of create your own, but you need to do some certain things in that meeting, right? So these are the things you really need to do in that meeting. Where are you going to buy, what time frame, all that stuff. You need to find out about what they want. And I always do it like, I always assume we're on the same team. I mean, you'll see me do this all the time. While we're looking, what are we looking for? Not what are you looking for? What are we going to find? What are we going to do? Not what are you going to do, or not what am I going to do? It's always we. So I'm covering the needs and understanding what they want. Buyers want to buy for certain reasons. You have to find out what their motivation is. So you do that by asking them open-ended questions. Where do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? Why? What does it mean to you? A lot of open-ended questions. We did a whole training on open-ended questions, but ask a lot of questions here. The more questions you ask, and this sounds kind of counterproductive, but the more questions you ask, the more they're going to like you because they think you care, right? They don't think you're trying to jam a house down this road. They think you're trying to help them, which we actually are. You have to set the relationship between you and your buyer. Now is the time for you to be the professional, right? If they could do this on their own, they would. If it was easy to buy a house, they'd just go online and do it. We wouldn't exist, we wouldn't get paid. The process of buying a home is not easy, it's not simple. You're the professional, you need to be in charge. So from the get-go, you need to set that relationship up. They're gonna tell you things as though they're in charge, and you need to swing that around and take control. So they're gonna say, here's what I want. I wanna find a house, I don't wanna ever pay over list price. I hear this all the time. I just won't do it, I won't pay over list price. So now you need to be the professional. You need to show them, in this neighborhood you're looking, these are the last 10 homes that sold. This was the list price, this was the sell price. All 10 sold for over ask. If you're not willing to do that, it's going to be really tough to find a place right now. Right? And now I'm in charge. Instead of them going, hey, I'm not going to do this. I've now shown them why, if they want to buy a house, they're going to have to do that. Without saying, you're dumb, you're going to have to do that. Right? So we're going to set it. The other thing we want to do is we want to explain the process at this first meeting. Right? We're buying a house. What is the process to buy a house in today's day and age? And it starts with financing, right? So at this face-to-face meeting, we're going to have a talk about financing. And I'm going to ask them, have you been pre-approved for a mortgage? And they invariably are going to say, yeah, I went to TD. They said I could afford $600,000, right? Which is not a pre-approval. It's just an affordability calculation. So what I'm going to do in this first meeting is I need to really get this buyer to the point where they're working with my people, right? It's my buyer. I want my buyer working with my mortgage professional. And the reason for that, and I'm going to explain it to the buyer at the time, is we're going to go out and look at houses. When we find one you love, we're going to need to put an offer in, and we're going to need that mortgage person on our team at that time. So what I do is when we find one we're going to go see, I'll email the mortgage professional before we go and ask them, hey, is this something Diana could afford? If we had to put an offer in with no conditions, couldn't. If it's not my person that I have a relationship with, I can't really have those conversations, right? So I need to have a mortgage broker that I work with, or 2 or 3 that I have those great relationships. Here in the office, Kyle's real good. If you don't have anybody, use Kyle. He's here, he speaks at our meetings, he's great. He'll set it up so that you can put offers in without conditions. If you don't see control at this moment, I'm gonna say this really clearly, you're gonna lose money. If you haven't taken control of the mortgage process in the game today, and you leave it up to them to work with their person, you're gonna find the perfect house, everything's gonna be great, you're gonna go to put the offer in, and their broker's gonna go, yeah, they need a condition of financing. And for those of you that are out selling houses now, you know, a condition of financing, you may as well just burn the paper. Like, it's done. You may as well burn that offer. And so you need to have that done beforehand, right? But buyers don't understand that. That's our job, is to explain it to them. The mortgage process. This is the mortgage process. The next step is the offer process. How does an offer work? And I'm going to explain this at the first meeting with them. When we find one we like, there's going to be more than just us interested. And I'm going to explain to them at that first meeting the difference between no conveyancing offers and yes, I'll accept an early offer and what that means. And I explained it to them really simply. If it says no conveyance offers till Tuesday at 6, they won't take an offer, no matter what we do, till Tuesday at 6. But if it says seller will accept, then here's the deal. We're going to go look at this Friday afternoon. Friday night, I'm probably going to call you and say they got an offer, right? And we do that all the time. So you got to get the clients ready for that. So while we're in the house, this is a beautiful house. I tell you what, guys, I'm probably going to make that call tonight that they have an offer. And if you want this house, we have to be ready to compete tonight. If you haven't met with them, they don't trust you. You haven't educated them. You haven't taught them. That's a tough conversation to have with somebody strange. So I'm going to meet somebody the first time and I'm going to tell them, look, here's the deal. You like this house. We have to put an offer in with no financing, no inspection. You're going to put the offer in tonight. We're going to go 20% over asking. Trust me, it'll be okay. And they're going to look at you like, you're nuts. My mom bought a house. She was listed at 500. She bought it for 420. And she did 2 inspections and my grandpa went and looked at it. That's how you buy a house. And you're going to tell them, no, it doesn't work like that anymore. So if you haven't earned the relationship, if you haven't earned the trust, you're going to die at this moment. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, we need to be the professionals. We need to be in control. So you got to explain to them, how does the financing work? What is the offer process? What's it going to look like when I find a house I like? The first time they hear about a multiple offer better not be when they're putting one in, right? Because it doesn't work. Now, I will caution you, I am good at this game. Every time I work with a first-time home buyer, we have to lose twice before they actually listen. So don't be afraid to put offers in that you know aren't going to work just to secure that client for the next one, right? It's almost like they got to miss twice before they got to bat. So you're gonna play this game where you're putting offers in that won't work. Explain the buying process. Now, when is the best time to buy a house? Yesterday. Let me tell you, the best time to buy a house was 3 years ago, but right now is the best time to buy a house. So for those clients, right now is the best time to buy a house, but you better be ready to answer the question. Why don't I wait till the market crashes? Why don't I wait till the market crashes? And that's a great question because eventually the market is going to pull back. It always does. But the reality of it is the reason the market pulls back is because interest rates go up. So what matters to you? Does it matter if you pay $500,000 for this house or $450,000? Or does it matter to you if it is $1,500 a month at $500,000 or $1,800 a month at $450,000? Is it about the monthly payment or is it about the value of the home? Right? Because that's what brings the prices down. It's the mortgage business. So here's the deal. Today, with mortgage rates the way they are, you can afford a lot of house. Mortgage rates go up by 2% and you can afford 30% less house. Today's a great time to buy. It usually is. Now, when I first got into this game, I tried to be really cool and I tried to outplan and outthink the market. And I actually cost my clients houses that they wanted by trying to be too good at my job, right? And I would fight for $2,000 on a townhouse that was listed for $280,000. We'd fight to the death for $2,000. And we'd walk away over $2,000 on that $280,000 townhouse that yesterday sold for $780,000. That $2,000 seems like nothing. I feel like an idiot for fighting for it. I should have helped that person get that house. and they would have made a fortune. Instead, I bought for $2,000 because my ego wanted it. And I look back in hindsight, go, wow, we should have bought everything for whatever they were selling it for, and we would have been in great position. Right now is the time to buy. Interviewing the buyer. So in that package I gave you, I'm not going to read all these because it's just redundant, but I gave you some questions here that you can use in that interview. Read through the questions, pick the ones you like and use them. So you'll see that they're just simple questions here that they're common sense. A couple of them that I really like, what are you looking for in your real estate agent? That's a big one. Things like that. So you have those listed questions. Those are for that interview, right? Now, we're going to take a step back. You're also going to, at that first meeting, try and explain some of the paperwork. When I find a house for my client, it's usually Friday. It's usually 6 o'clock at night. And I usually have to put an offer in by 10. So I have from 6 to 10 to look at a house, find out that they want it, put all the paperwork together, have them sign it, and submit it in that little window. What it doesn't leave time for is for me to explain, what is a buyer rep agreement? What is working with a realtor? How does an offer work? What are the conditions or parts of an offer? These are the things you want to go over in that first meeting. So what you want to do is you want to take a copy of the paperwork, show them a buyer rep agreement, show them a working with a realtor, show them an offer, show them this stuff while you're there so that when you e-sign it, when you send it over to them, you've explained it to them. Because when pressure's on and it's 7 o'clock and it's Friday night, and you've got a half an hour to get the offer in and they really want the house, here's what's going to happen. You're going to do I think we're up to 9 documents now to put an offer in. It's something crazy like that. But you're going to do up all 9 documents. You're going to send them over to them. They're going to e-sign them. And nobody's going to read nothing. And when it goes to court, if it goes wrong, the judge is going to say, did you give your clients adequate time to read and understand these contracts? And you're going to say, yeah, I gave them 7 minutes. And you're going to lose, right? Or you say, no, we sat down in their home on Zoom in my office, and we went over the paperwork in advance so they would understand it. And the judge will look at them and go, Anthony, did Jeff come to your house and explain this paperwork to you? Yeah, okay, case dismissed, goodbye. If you ever end up there. Now, I'm not saying you will. I'm 20 years in, never ended up there yet. I'm going. But if you do, you want to have explained things. So what paperwork do we need for buyers? Now, when I set this out, I said, I want people in their first year because we want to know, what do we need? The very first form you need is a form called Working with a Realtor. I use this. Can you see it? Is it on the screen, you guys?
Yes.
So I use that. It's a little brochure I get from the board. It costs 15 cents. This thing has made me fortunes. 15 cents. It is the exact form you print out when you hit print the Working with a Realtor form. It's the same. The difference between this and the form you print on your computer is this is not from you. This is from OREA, the Ottawa Real Estate Association. This is not a contract between me and a client. This is an information brochure explaining how real estate works. What I use this for is at every first meeting, whether it's in a house or on Zoom or in an office, the client is signing this at a minimum. If you can't get a buyer rep signed because they're nervous, but you can get this signed. So I'm going to explain to you what this basically is. This explains how real estate works. It explains that there's 2 different kinds of relationships we can have. We can have a client relationship or a customer relationship. In a client relationship, I have a fiduciary duty to look after you. In other words, everything I do, once we have that relationship, has to be in your best interest. I have to go out of my way. I have to disclose everything to you. I have to really go to the wall for you if we have a client relationship. If we have a customer relationship, it's more like if you walked into Walmart. I'm going to help you buy a house. I'll help you with paperwork. But I don't have that responsibility. Now, for me, very hands-on. I like to look after the people I care about. I always have a client relationship with my customers. I don't have a customer relationship. What you need to do today is decide if you had to pick, Anthony, would you want a client relationship where I have that responsibility? Or do you want a customer relationship where I'm just giving you customer service? Which would you prefer? Nobody ever says, I want the shitty relationship. They all say, I want the good one. I want the one where you take care of it. So, great. The other thing this explains is what multiple rep is, right? So I gotta explain that. Now, in order to prove that I've taught you this and explain this to you, I need you to initial and just sign here that you want that client relationship. Have them sign it, put it in my briefcase. I'm out the door. They go to an open house on Sunday. Here it is, rocket science. They go to an open house on Sunday. Chloe's working there. Chloe's amazing at open houses. And Chloe says to them, hey, have you signed anything with a realtor yet? They say, yeah, I signed with Jeff. He says, what did you sign? They say, I don't know, I just signed some contract with him. Chloe's out. She can't talk to that person anymore. Right? Did they sign a buyer rep with me? Are they under contract? No. But all they know is they signed something. So at that first meeting, you need to get some sort of tie down, some sort of commitment. I freaking love this brochure because it's unthreatening. It's nice, it's simple, it's easy. They'll sign it every time. It's not a contract with me. They're not under any obligation, anything else, except when they walk out the door, they'll forget what they signed. All they're going to remember is they signed with Jeff, the real estate agent. And that's what I need. Now, the next step up from there is I actually do the buyer rep agreement. Has everybody read the buyer rep agreement? I'm hoping yes. The buyer rep agreement is the contract where you're hiring me. Do you want to hire me to be your agent? If you do, this is the buyer rep and explain the contract. Get them to sign it. It protects them because it tells them what you're going to do for them. It protects you because it contractually obligates them to use you. So it is an actual contract. If you're not comfortable with the buyer rep agreement, come and see me one-on-one and we'll walk you through ways to get comfortable with it. Because when I first started, I really wasn't. But there's good ways to do it. So the buyer rep agreement, really important. I don't know why I closed this. Everybody know what FINTRAC is? Anybody know what FINTRAC stands for? Financial something BS Revenue Canada. So FINTRAC is the document that you need to fill out with every buyer and every seller, basically saying, I know who they are, I know where the money's coming from, and I have a relationship with that person, right? So you need to fill out the FINTRAC forms. There's two now. There's an ID form where you get their driver's license or their passport, and then there's the political one where you say they're not involved with the Conservative Party of Canada, which really strikes me as weird, but anyway. All right, now let's get in the stuff Pam sent you. The agreement of purchase and sale is there. The other thing that is in that stuff that Pam sent you, it's on page, I'm not going to read them, but it's on, and this is for you, it's kind of a gift. So it starts on page 17. These are the clauses that I use in my agreements of purchase and sale. So I wrote them all out for you. They're all in paragraphs. Feel free, you can take them and use them. Use your own, use the ones from MLS, whatever you want, but they're all in there for you. So the agreement of purchase and sale, we got to coach them on how that agreement works because they don't know. The biggest thing that people don't understand when they're buying real estate is that there is no verbal contracts. There's no handshake deal in real estate. Real estate is only binding if it's done in writing. Now, the writing could be on a napkin at a bar, but it needs to be in writing, okay? So if another agent says, hey, my client is going to give you X number of dollars for the house, it doesn't mean anything until it's in writing, right? It's not an obligation. So on that agreement of purchase and sale, you have to walk them through every step of it and all the clauses and everything else. Pam sent you an email. In that email is the attachment to the common language, common sense explanation of the buyer rep, the confirmation co-op, and the agreement of purchase and sale. So what it did is somebody took those contracts, took the legalese, wrote them out in plain English, and I sent it to you so you'd have it. Do take the time to read that so you know those contracts. you're gonna be dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property every single time. Those contracts represent those hundreds of thousands of dollars. Make sure that if you're not confident, you get help, but also make sure that the first time you're looking at them is not when you're with a buyer. And I did that, so that's why I say, make sure the first time you review a contract, make sure it's on your own or with a partner, not with a buyer. All right, so now we're talking. We've sat down at the meeting. We've talked about their goals, what they want to accomplish. Remember, 70% of the meeting was us asking them opening questions, finding out where they want to go, what they want to do. The questions are there. Then we talked about the financing process, right? And that's key. Then we talked about the actual buying process. What's going to be like when we find a house you like? How are we going to put an offer in? Then we talked about the paperwork. Now we need to talk to them about the costs. What are the costs when you buy a house? Right? Obviously, it's the price of the house, but there's a whole bunch more that people don't plan for. And our job is to educate them in this first meeting. When we go to look at a house, there will be some other costs when you go to buy it. One of those big costs is called land transfer tax. When I buy a house in Ontario, the Ontario government takes a percentage as a tax to push a button and transfer the ownership from one owner to the next one. So you'll see in the documents I sent you, the actual breakdown of the land transfer tax. You know, it's from 55 to 250, it's 0.5%, and then it graduates from there. So you have to explain that to somebody, right? When you buy the house, you're gonna have to pay the land transfer tax. There's legal fees, right? We all know you've got to pay a lawyer. We know you have to pay a lawyer. Somebody who's buying their first house doesn't necessarily know this stuff. It's our job to educate. You don't want to, I don't know the right way to say this, but you don't want to mansplain it to somebody. You don't want to if they know what they're doing, you don't want to overcomplicate it, but you want to make sure that they understand what those costs are, right? There's a deposit. Everybody, when they buy their first house, gets the down payment and the deposit confused. The down payment is the amount of my money I'm putting on the house. The bank will put the rest, and that'll be the purchase price. That's the down payment. The deposit is the amount I'm going to give you when we sign the contract and it's agreed upon to tie it up. Does that make sense to everybody? The deposit can be nothing, zero. I say that again for those of you at home, you urban legend real estate monkeys. The deposit can be zero. There doesn't need to be a deposit. Our contracts are signed under, I think it's under the crown or under whatever they are. But our real estate contracts are enough that they are a binding consideration in itself. You don't need, used to be you had to give $1 to lock the deal down. Now you don't have to anymore, okay? While I've got you, let me fix this. If I sign an agreement of purchase and sale conditional on nothing, I'm buying this house in 4 weeks. My deposit is $10,000. Tomorrow I don't drop the 10 grand off. The deal is still binding. It's still firm. I'm now in breach for not giving my deposit, but I'm not out of the contract. So I see realtors all the time say, this house is sold, but I'm not going to mark it as sold till the deposit gets here. That's not true. It's sold whether the deposit gets there or not. I'm in the middle of a lawsuit right now where a buyer went firm on a multi-unit building and then tried to walk away. Didn't give us a deposit, didn't do nothing, just tried to walk away. Firm deal. Yesterday, his lawyer forced him to purchase the house. He has no choice. His lawyer told him, if you don't execute on this contract, Jeff can sell this house for anything he wants. You're going to pay the difference between what you paid and what Jeff sells it for. Plus, he's keeping your deposit. Plus, you're paying the legal fees. Plus, you're paying all the costs to carry this building between now and whenever Jeff can finally sell it again. And the buyer decided based on that he would go ahead and buy the property because it'd be cheaper, right? But he never put his deposit down. So it doesn't matter. The deposit, it means something. It means something to us. There's a lot of realtors out there that think a bigger deposit is better. I'm one of them. I love big deposits. If it's a condition of inspection, financing with a big deposit that's refundable, I don't care about a big deposit because if they don't want to buy the house, the deposit's going back. But if it's a firm deal, the bigger the deposit is, the less chance they're gonna change their mind at the end when they know they're gonna lose it. Right, so big deposits matter. Legal fees, land transfer tax, deposit, purchase price, CMHC and Genworth, insurance, so they're gonna have to pay that. So if I buy a house, I'm gonna buy $100,000 house. I don't know where I'm gonna buy it, but I'm gonna buy $100,000 house. Just my math is easy at 100 grand. So I'm gonna buy $100,000 house. I'm a first time buyer. How much do I have to put down? 5%. Right? So I got to put down $5,000. So I got to put down 5K. And I paid $100,000 for the house. How big is my mortgage? Put down 5, I paid 100. Right, and I would think it would be $95,000. Except CMHC is 4%. So I put 5 grand down, and the bank is going to add $4,000 to this, and now I have a $99,000 mortgage on my $100,000 house. Where the hell did my money go? Don't you think that's something you should explain to your buyers up front before it happens? So they know in advance. There are 2 insurers or 3 insurers, GE, Genworth, CMHC, and what they do is they insure the banks in case you default, and it's compulsory, you have to pay, you have no choice. It's not for you, but it's gonna cost you something. If you default on your mortgage, by the way, CMHC will pay the bank back and then sue you for it. So this is just bullshit money that the government's taking from you, but you have no choice. So it's gonna happen, right? And I explain it just like, it's gonna happen. Other things that could come up when you're buying a house, right? If you're gonna do a home inspection, there's a cost to that. If you're like me and you're gonna go do farms and rural, and you're gonna do a home inspection, and that's gonna cost you, if we're going out to Perth or Comp Place, $675, they're gonna inspect a well for $875. We're gonna inspect a septic system for another $675. All of a sudden, you better have coached these people up front when they're going to look at the house. Hey, there's a bunch of little costs that are going to come up as we're trying to decide whether we buy the house or not, right? You got to talk and you got to coach these people at these things. The last thing I want to talk to you about is at the end of a deal, when they go to buy the house, there are some cost adjustments. So there's some things that have been prepaid that you have to pay the seller back for. And your buyers better know that. So in Ontario, we pay our property taxes 6 months in advance. Even if you're paying monthly by the bank pays 6 months in advance. So property taxes on January 1st are really paid up until July 1st. Does that make sense? So if I bought the property February 1st, the seller has paid 5 months of property taxes that I'm going to own the house for. So at closing, I have to give the seller back that money. Now, if the house was 1.4 million, property taxes are 15 grand, I might have to write a $7,500 check to the seller to cover his prepaid taxes. If I don't have that $7,500, we're gonna have a problem. So coach them in advance, get them ready. So at that pre-consultation meeting, whether it's in the office or Zoom or in their house, you have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of things to cover. You're going to cover all of this stuff. And by covering all of this stuff, you're going to earn their trust. They're going to think of you as a professional. Because Jeff called and said, hey, let's go look at a house. And you came over and did all this work with them. Right? So it's just a matter of style, but you do earn their trust at that point. Now, the other way to do this, and this is the one I use more, the other way to do this is I want to meet you for the first time at a house. And you'll see the last pages of your thing are my script for what a house. I've done this so much I don't need to look at it, but if those of you who question whether I use scripts or not, feel free to flip there while I do it. Here's what I do. I will call them and I'll say, what do we got over here? Well, I'm going to pick on you. Let's pick on Tara. So I'll call Tara and say, Tara, hey, it's Jeff. We've been at that open house today. We had a lot of fun. We danced, we sang, we talked about kids, we did all this, but I noticed you really didn't like that house I was in. There's 2 others around the corner that I think you'll love. If you have some time Tuesday night, I just need about a half an hour. We can go look at both back to back. It'll just be us. We could go look at them both real quick and we'll see if you like. You have some time Tuesday night, right? And if she says no, you might want to try all the BS salesman stuff. You might want to do the alternative close. Hey, we could go Tuesday night or Thursday night, or we go Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. You can try all that stuff. Just keep trying stuff till it works. For me, I'm so damn dominant that I don't use those things because I just bang them and they do it. But you might have to be a little more finesse, right? So that first phone call, I'm trying to get them in a house. Never show one. If you can only show one house, meet them in their house or the office or Zoom first. Never meet a client. I'm going to say it really clear and I want you all to write it down, burn it in your brains, whatever. Never meet a client for the first time if you only have one house to show them. Because invariably what happens is they drive up to the house. They look at it. They roll down the window. They say, we don't like it. We're going to take off. Thanks for showing it to us. And they're gone. And you're finished. You have no relationship. You have no comeback. You have no nothing. So if you don't have two to show them, then meet them in the office or something, if you only have one. If you have two, then go meet them at the house. Does that make sense? Make sense? Because if I have two, I can develop the relationship. So this is how I do it. This is exactly how I do it. Number one, will always try and book 3, 2 at the minimum. I'm never going to drive the client to a house. No clients ever get in my car. First of all, I'm a pig, so my car's a mess. But, and I'm sure most of you in real estate live in your cars too, so yours looks like mine. But more importantly than that, I need the clients to not be with me between houses. I need them to drive themselves because usually it's a couple or 2 people. We meet at the first house and the husband loves me. Totally wants to do business. But in his mind, he is thinking, does my wife also like him? And the wife totally loves me because how could she not? She's only human. She totally loves me. But she's thinking in her mind, I wonder if my husband feels the same way. I need them to get in the car between houses and agree how great I am so that they can deal with me. It's simple and stupid, but isn't it true? Right? The first thing they're going to do when they get in the car, he's going to turn to her, she's going to turn to him and go, I really like that guy. I think he could help us. Or, hey, this is the guy. Or, hey, that was fun. Or, hey, this guy's nice. Whatever it is, but I need that consensus from house to house. Everybody understand why? Like, if they don't do that, at the second house, that thought is going to be there. Well, I like him, but I don't know if she does. Or I like him, I don't know if he does. So that's why I never drive. We're going to meet at the first house. Those of you that are newer in real estate, go 10 minutes early. Don't show up on time. If you're on time, you're dead. Here's why. There is 7 different kinds of lock boxes out there. There's the iBox. There's one with a push button combination. There's one with a dial combination. There's the old school combination high school locker ones. There's like 7 different lock boxes we use. If you show up and don't know how to open the lockbox, you better have enough time to call me or Alexandra or Andrew or somebody to get help before your client shows up. Because what you don't want to do, and this happened to us, and he's not on, so I can't really pick on him. I had a young agent show a house for me and he couldn't get in because he couldn't figure out how to open the lockbox. He said, oh, it must be broken. I showed up 10 minutes later and opened it because he didn't know it. But show up early. First house, you want to go in early, turn on all the lights, make sure it's nice. When your client gets there, out front of the first house, and I always do it out front of the first house, I have the same script, and it goes something like this. You know what? I'm pretty good at this, but our goal today is to really get to know each other. We may find the perfect house for you today, but it's our first time out together, so probably it's not likely. But here's what I need you to do. As we're looking at these houses, I need you to be totally transparent, totally honest. Tell me what you love, tell me what you hate. That's Tuesday night. Tell me what you love, tell me what you hate, so that when I set up Thursday's shopping, I bang it out and we hit everyone right off in every house we look at you love. Somebody look at my script and tell me how close that is. Should be near the end. right after the big picture of the shark. So page 29. Now we're gonna go look in the house. Here's what I want you to do in the house. And you can do whatever you want, you're self-employed, but if you want to make money, you'll do what I say. In the house, let them love it. Let them enjoy the experience. Don't show off how much you know as a realtor by picking out all the little problems in the house. Just let them love it. Make a mental note or a physical note of all the little problems in case they want to buy it. But for now, all I want to do is have them love the house. So I'm going to walk around the house and I'm going to point out cool things. Hey, look, it's got a bidet. You know, imagine how much you save on toilet paper with that. No more lineups for toilet paper. It's got a bidet. You know, things like that. Hey, it's got a charging station in the garage. That's wicked at $2 a gallon. You know, whatever it is, I'm going to point out the little exciting things. But I'm not going to point out the negative stuff. And here's why I don't do it. When I first started in real estate, and some of you already know the story, but when I first started in real estate, and I took all the courses you guys took, and I knew everything there was to know about a house. I was a man. 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Beautiful young couple. Take them to see a house. And on the way in, I notice there's no eaves trough. And I could see the waters drip down and then bounce back against the house. And I could see the trench along the foundation where the water's going down. So in my massive amount of ego, I tell them, listen, here's what we're going to notice when we go in the basement. Because the basement's unfinished, you're going to notice that the water's splashing over here, and cement's a porous substance, so it's not waterproof. The water will go through it eventually if it sits against it. And as it comes through it, it drags some of the salt out of the cement, creates this white powder called effervescence on the inside of the house. And when we go in, we're going to see that. And you know what? We went in the basement, we saw the effervescence, and I looked like a freaking genius. My clients loved the house. And at the end, I asked them my question, which is, could you see yourself living here? And they looked at me and they said, Jeff, we love the house, but we never live in a house with water damage that floods like this one does. It's $600 to fix that problem worth the eaves trough. $600 and a little bit of dirt to slope the house up. So for $600, we could have bought that house they loved. Instead, I convinced them it sucked. And I learned right off the bat, right early on. Save those things for when they go to put the offer in. Or go to do the inspection. Who would I talk to that about? If we're doing an inspection, I'll make notes and I'll tell the home inspector, hey, while we're doing the inspection, make sure you look at this. Right? But my job is to help them buy a house, not talk them out of it. So while I'm looking at that first house, we're just gonna love the house, which makes the whole experience fun for them, for me, for all of us. We're just having a blast. We're loving houses. We're going out, we're loving houses. At the end of the first house, my script is the same always because it has reasons. On a scale of 1 to 10, Anthony, how would you rate this house on a scale of 1 to 10? The first house we've ever seen, I get a 6 or 7 every time. It's a 6 or 7, unless it's a 10 and they want it, but it's a 6 or 7. And then I would say this, Anthony, what would it take to take this from a 6 to a 10 for you? Right? And what have I done? At the end of the house, we've looked at it. He said it's a 6. What I'm doing now is I'm training him, I'm coaching him, I'm teaching him that there is no perfect house. But if we can find one, and for the right amount of money or the right amount of effort, we can make it perfect. That's what we want. So I'm coaching him in the first house that we're not looking for the perfect house, we're looking for the house we can make perfect for you. Right? And I coach him with that with one simple question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank this? A 6. Perfect. What would it take to make it a 10? Now, as new agents, you guys will start to get a grasp of this. There are some things that are very easy to fix. I don't like the carpet. I don't like the color of the paint. I need a fence in the backyard. There's some things that are super easy to fix. And if those are some of the things that would make it a 10, you know you're on the right track. The bedrooms are too small. I hate the way that the downstairs is laid out. Needs a new kitchen. Those are, $80,000, $90,000 fixes. We're not doing that. So those are the ones, those are the objections you can't overcome, right? That house is not for them. But if the objections are small, that might be the house already. You're in the first time. So we're going to do the first house. Then we're going to go to the second one. They're going to get in the car between the first and the second house. And what are they going to tell themselves? In between first and second house, what do they say? We get in the car. God, I love Jeff. That's what I need. right? I need them to say that between the first and second house. We go to the second house, I'm gonna meet them at the front again. I'm gonna say a little spiel, something along the lines of, hey, same thing in this house. While we're here, tell me what you love and what you don't. Let's see what it's like. I'll open the door. I'll say, oh, one more thing. I call this the Inspector Clouseau close. And if anybody here is over 60, you know who Inspector Clouseau was. He was an old school private eye. And he was a bumbling guy, he wore a trench coat. And he looked like he wasn't always all there. And he always closed the case on the way out the door. So he'd ask all these stupid questions, then he'd be on the way out the door. Oh, one more thing, just before I go. And that's when the big question came up, because he disarmed me, right? One more thing, just before, one more. So here it is. One more thing, guys, when we get in this house, I need to take 2 minutes of your time just at the kitchen counter to explain. Can't say this more clearly. I need to take your time at the kitchen counter. There's a document from the board that I need to explain to you and make sure you understand. It's about how real estate agents work. So while we're together, you know exactly what to expect and you know exactly how we operate. Can we take 2 seconds to do that kitchen counter? Everybody says, yes, I'm going to explain them. You have a choice to be a client or a customer, which you pick, sign here, we're done. Okay, so house number 2, this is why you never show 1. House number 2. Do the working with a realtor in the house number 2, they'll sign it. When they meet the next agent, have you signed anything with the real estate agent? Yep, what'd you sign? Don't know, but I signed something. All right, so second house, we're gonna do that. They're gonna look at the house. Same thing, let them love it. Let them love the house. Then at the end of the house, I say this. I'll use the boy. Anthony, there's only 2 houses left on planet Earth and you have to buy one. Is it this one or the last one? And then I'll be quiet. And Anthony's gonna say, oh, I prefer this one. Or, oh, I really like the last one. Whatever he says, my answer is always the same. Perfect. If you like this one, but not the last one, we'll keep this one on the list. We'll take the last one off. If you like the first one, great. We'll take this one off the list. We'll keep the last one on. While I'm doing that, let me ask you, could you see yourself living in this house? Right? Could you see yourself in here? Could you see your family in here? Could you see the kids in the bedroom and your wife in the kitchen? Whatever it is, could you see yourself in this house? If he says, yes, I'm closing. Yes, I can see myself in this house. That's the only thing you need to hear. As soon as you hear that, do your job. Close the deal. Right? As soon as I hear, yeah, I could live in this house. Because if he doesn't think he could live in this house, he's going to tell me, no, I don't really like it. And that's great. We're going to move on. But if they say yes, my answer is always the same in this part. Could you see yourself living in this house? Say yes.
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 Unfortunately, so bad. Now they're gonna be like, what the fuck? Did you just say unfortunately? And I say, yeah, unfortunately, I love this house too. But if you love it, and I love it, everybody else is gonna love it too. So that we don't miss it, little FOMO, so that we don't miss it, what we should do is let's talk about a way to tie it up so that it's available so nobody scoops it out from under. Now we're going back to the office to do contracts. Now we're buying houses, right? And if I can have the time to put a condition inspection in, you got no risk. We're gonna buy this house, we respect it, you don't like it, you don't buy it. Most people will go ahead and buy it, right? Unless someone comes up with inspection. But I'm gonna do, so it's simple. We're on the phone. We met them at an open house. We get an appointment. We're at the appointment. We teach them about the process and what we do. It's simple. We develop a rapport, we develop a relationship, we get to know them, we find out their dreams, their loves, what they want, why they want it. And then we help them get it by going out and showing them houses. When we find the one they want, we do the contract, right? Everybody understands this part. We do the contracts. We do the agreement per sale, all that stuff that you have to do. We're going to do it now. The process doesn't end there. You guys are realtors, you're in charge of the whole package. So as soon as you get the house, you're going to put the offer in. Let's assume it goes to multiple offers and we lose. Does that ever happen to us? Twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week? We put an offer in, we lose. Don't get attached to houses. Get attached to humans. You didn't lose anything. You just didn't happen to buy that one house. As long as you preserve the relationship with that buyer, you haven't lost. Does that make sense? Stop feeling like you lose when you lose multiple offers. You only lose if you get fired. The only way you lose is if you didn't properly coach them to understand that there's a chance that they're going to lose, that they're not going to win this house. Right? And I talked to, at that point, I talked about the real estate gods. I talked about fate. I talked what's meant to be is meant to be. And if this is the one, it's going to work. And if it's not, it's not. And the next one will be better. I keep them excited. I lose excited. And what that stops is that stops them when they don't get it going, I need a new realtor. Right? Oh, this guy must suck. So I lose excited. If we lost, there's a reason why we lost. The real estate gods didn't want you in this house. They got a better one for you. We're going to find it next week. So we need to go on Tuesday because the real estate gods are now telling us to get our ass out there and get it. Right? Be that guy, be that girl, be that person that keeps it fun, keeps it exciting, even when it sucks. Now you're going to cry. So I'll tell you what the last one I did. I drove to Perth. I looked at a cottage. It's an hour drive, an hour back. We spent 2 hours at the cottage. Went back for a second showing and met the owners who toured us around the cottage. An hour drive, an hour back, 4 hours with the owners. The cottage was listed for 1.2 million. Nothing on the lake had ever sold for more than 800,000. We offered $1.5 million for this cottage. There was 3 offers. We were third. We were last. We got beat by both other offers. And I cried that night because I had just lost $37,000 in 10 minutes. And this is why you don't count the commission until it's in your account. But I cried that night. And I was afraid. Laura, who the client called 2 seconds before this meeting started, said, Jeff, we saw lots of cottages come listed this week. Can we go look at some this weekend? Same client. So I didn't lose, I just delayed it. But I felt like I lost. I really did. So I called Laura, who's my client, who incidentally is also my physiotherapist. And I said, Laura, we didn't get it. And she said, you know what? We were worried about the siding. We knew it was a big obligation. We're kind of happy we didn't get it. We're going to find something better. And I hung up the phone and I said, I prejudged that situation to be miserable, but my client wasn't upset at all. I made the mistake of worrying about the commission instead of the person. Right? I worried about the house instead of the human. Worry about the human. If you keep the human happy, you don't lose. So you're going to lose that first 2 offers. You better coach them in advance. This could happen. And when it does, it's the real estate God's telling us something better is going to come along. And if you keep trying, you'll close houses. If you give up, you'll be fry guy at McDonald's in 2 months. But if you keep going, you're going to close houses. On average, I'm putting 3 to 4 offers in for each buyer before they buy a house. Now that's average. The last one I did was Maddie, Andrew's little brother. We put in 11 offers, but bought the 12th house. Yeah, exactly. We put in 11 offers and bought the 12th house. And we just got lucky because it was the first, some idiot listed his house with offers due this Tuesday of March break. And so that cut out half the buyers for townhouses and we got the house. But it was just time. But we put in 11 offers. It's just like, and that's part of the job. Now, how long does it take to write an offer? 8 months in, 3 hours. 20 years in, 13 minutes. You get faster. As you get more experience, you get way faster after doing these offers. It takes me about 5 minutes to do an offer, start to finish, all the documentation, everything. 5 minutes. You'll get there. So it takes me 5 minutes, 11 times, 55 minutes. The 60th, I made 22 grand. That's 22 grand an hour. I'm okay with that. It's not a living, but it's a start, right? So don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. You're going to miss. When you miss, if you've coached them right, you don't lose. You just move on. If you haven't coached them right, you're going to lose. When you lose that offer, they're going to think it's your fault. And they're going to fire you, and you're not going to get paid. And then they're gonna hire me, and I'm gonna get paid. So feel free not to do it right. I'll make all the money, but I'd rather see you make a little. All right, so you're gonna coach them if they lose. What if they win? Oh my God, they accepted your offer. What's next? It's not over. It's not even close to over. As soon as they accept your offer, now you've got work to do. And we got a shit ton of paperwork, 12 different documents that have to get in here to the office. And we got to go to command and put in our opportunity. We got to do the actual admin work behind the scenes. Our buyers don't know any of that's going on. Then we have to coordinate their professionals. It's Friday night at 9 o'clock. I bought a house. The next morning or that night, you need to send an email to their mortgage provider, whoever's doing their mortgage, say, hey, we bought a house. We need financing. You need to hook them up with a lawyer, right? Hey, we bought a house. We need a lawyer. Most of these times we're buying firms, so the lawyer's involved, bang, right off the bat. We need a lawyer. We need a house. They're going to need a lot of other help with stuff, especially their first time getting their stuff hooked up. What do I hook up? When do I get a mover? What? There's a lot of, you're not done. You're really not done. If there's a home inspection, I'm hoping within 6 months we'll be doing home inspections every time. But if there is, don't talk to your seller about the home inspection for the first time at the home inspection. Home inspections for buyers are freaking miserable. We're going to bring in a professional. The professional is going to look at the house you love. They're going to find everything that's wrong with it. And when we leave here, you're going to think it's a bag of crap. Here's why. Every house, when we bring these guys in, looks like a bag of crap afterwards. There's going to be plugs that don't work. There's going to be broken tiles. There's going to be loose toilets. Whatever it is, stuff's going to come up, right? Stuff is going to come up. It always does. Your job is to not lose the deal because of the home inspection. So you need to have coached them up front. When we do the home inspection, this is what could happen. Everything could be great. And we buy the house. Try not to laugh when you say it, but everything could be great and we buy the house. That almost never happens. Some little things could come up in the home inspection. And at that time, we'll have a conversation and you might decide that it's okay. You'll just forget about those little things and buy the house anyway. So like, for example, the back porch, I noticed the railing, the spindles are too far apart. The inspector is going to point that out, but it's not a big deal. We're not going to not buy the house because the spindles are too far apart, right? So there'll be some little things about it. Or it could be a big thing. If a big thing comes up, then we have a negotiation. We either accept it, or we negotiate, we get the seller to fix it, or we reduce the price so that we can fix it, or we come to some sort of deal, right? And I coach them this up front about the inspection process because what I don't want is the inspector to go, it needs a new roof, and my buyer go, oh, I'm out of here. No, wait, hold on, don't run away yet. It just needs a new roof. It's not a big deal, right? So you need to coach them up front because especially first-time home buyer, when they do their first home inspection, they're going to want to run. And it's always like that. So if you coach them up front, this is my job is to help you through this. And this is what could happen, and this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to do the home inspection. Financing is your job. It's your job to get the documents to whoever is underwriting the deal, whether it's a mortgage broker or a bank. It's your job to follow up to make sure everything's okay with your client and the mortgage person. It's your job to stay on top of it because if that mortgage person drops the ball, and it does happen, that mortgage person drops the ball, you're going to lose your commission. And worse than that, your buyer's going to lose the house they love. So perfect example, just happened to me this week. The bank, my buyer was putting 10% down. The bank did a 5% down mortgage. I called my buyer. I said, is everything okay? He said, yeah, I just got the documents. I said, send them over to me. I'll take a look. I looked at them. The numbers are all wrong. Had I not looked, he would have signed that document. He would have went at closing. Everything would have been wrong and the deal would have died on the spot, taken a week to get better, to fix up the mortgage because one guy made one mistake. And if I didn't look, I wouldn't have caught it. Right? And so it's part of your job. Then they're going to get their house. They're going to be happy, right? What's the most important thing we do at that point? We celebrate. We celebrate by them giving us referrals and making us more business. and we celebrate. So the whole process, really straightforward. I need a lead, starts with a lead. Doing lead generation in June again, but starts with a lead. We need a lead. Once we have a lead, then we need an appointment. Whether that appointment is in the office or in their house or on Zoom or in a showing, we need an appointment. And we need to manage that appointment. We need to coach a client. Then we need to use the MLS to find houses. So we need to know how to do that. Take them shopping, find a house, put the offer in. It's a big job. When you graduate from school, you don't know how to do any of this job. If you're new, brand new, hopefully you're in Alex's group, or you're on a team, or you know who to ask for help. I'm available, Andrew's available, Alexander's available. There's lots of people around here. Everybody will help. Everybody will help. So don't feel you're alone. But the key here is, and I'm going to end with the same thing I started. When they want to buy shoes, don't sell them an internet web search, sell them shoes. They want to buy houses. They don't want to look at emails. They don't want to look at web portals. They don't want to look, they want to go and look and buy a house. If you meet somebody at an open house on Sunday, you need to be in a house with them by Thursday. It's a lot of pressure. You meet them on Sunday, you got to be in a house with them by Thursday, or they're not going to be your client. I mean, nothing goes wrong. The world doesn't end. They just go buy a house with somebody else. If you meet them on Sunday, be in the house, but you could be in their house by Thursday, or you could have them in the office by Thursday, or you could have the Zoom appointment by Thursday, or you could go look at a house by Thursday, but have that. You got 4 or 5 days where they remember you, that you have a chance to strike. If you miss, set them up on an internet search and call them in 3 weeks. Well, 20 guys did that. And some of those girls that are out there at the open houses are better at this than us. And they did it too. And you know, what you don't want to set somebody up on an internet search on a Sunday night and have me take them shopping on Tuesday, because you're never going to hear from them again. And I promise, if I meet them at an open house on Sunday, I'm taking them shopping on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. I promise I am. So that's what you're up against. You're going to do an open house. You're going to meet people. You're up against me. I'm doing 2, one tomorrow, one the next day. And I promise everybody I meet will be shopping this week. I promise, because that's the only way to make money. All right. Any questions? You know, questions from the at-home gallery. How you guys doing out there? If I walk up there, they can't see me. How's everybody doing at home? You guys good? Yeah? We're good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm done. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. Go sell some houses.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You know?
Yeah.
I'll make this go away. Oh.